You may have some questions about how COVID-19 and our communities, our shuttered communities, may impact PureJM's finances in the coming year, and I'd like to take a moment and address that. The board of directors has done some extensive scenario planning, sort of best case, middle case, worst case forecasting on revenues and expenses. And one constant in this scenario planning that we've been conducting over the past couple of board members is to remain focused on PureJM's mission. And that's really our ability to continue to fund research toward better treatment, clinical care, and a cure for our children. This is really why we do what we do. And in other words, the board has worked hard to protect the integrity of our research program and keep the money flowing to projects where we have outstanding grant commitments. But even in the worst case scenario, which of course we want to avoid, we have not had to cancel any research where we have outstanding commitments. In the worst case scenario, new commitments, such as those to our centers of excellence, may need to be reduced somewhat, but not so much that their work cannot continue as planned. And in the meantime, we are reducing all of our non-essential operating expenses. And we've successfully applied for and have received a payroll protection program loan. You probably have heard of those, which ultimately, when forgiven, will have the effect of a $100,000 grant to our budget. And so this will all be very, very helpful as we navigate through the coming months. In the worst case revenue scenario, as we fund our grant, we spend about $100,000 more per month than we take in. Now, we can afford to do this for a year or so, but obviously not too much beyond that. But also remember that this is the worst case revenue scenario, and we're quite confident, and I'm really quite confident, that in these times, even in these times, we're going to do really much better than that, and perhaps much better than what we see in this worst case financial modeling. And therefore, if we can do that, any impact on our grant program will be negligible. That is really the goal as we move forward. So how are we going to do that? Well, this leads me to our next presenters, Karen Berman and Christine Alderfer. Karen has served as the chair of one of our most successful Walk Strong programs in Chicago. She's a marketing and advertising executive, having worked for and with some of the largest advertising firms in America. Christine is also a business executive and a member of the PureJM Board of Directors. You may know Christine as the chair and the creative power behind PureJM's annual family conference that most of you have attended in past years. I'll let them introduce themselves and the exciting new program they have in development. Some of you know a bit about that program, and some of you are about to learn about it for the first time tonight. So Karen and Christine, over to you. Karen, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I was on mute too. Sorry. You'd think I would know better by now. So this is Christine, and I'm going to start off, and then Karen's going to take it from there. So really happy to see everyone's faces tonight. This is an awesome group. Really excited.
Yeah, it is. Hi, everyone. Good to see you all.
So most of you probably know me. I'm Christine. I've been on the board for, I don't know, 7 years now, I think. I'm the mom of twin daughters who are turning 14 tomorrow. And we kind of celebrate our 14th birthday with also our, unfortunately, diagnosis of JM. So my daughter, Catherine, was diagnosed 10 years ago at the age of 4. So anyhow, I'll talk to you about our events tonight, and then Karen's going to take over. So as you probably know, we decided to cancel the in-person Walk Strong events that were scheduled for this spring and summer. So the coronavirus has made it a particularly hard time for families of kids with JM, especially those whose children are receiving immunosuppressive treatments. That's why we're as committed as ever to our mission to find better treatments and a cure for JM. So based on the unique nature of our current situation, we're very excited to tell you we decided to create a unique event, a virtual national event called Walk Strong Across America, in place of our chapter-based walks for 2020. So Karen and I have agreed to be the national co-chairs for this event, which I'm very excited about. Karen has very successfully led the Chicago chapter through their walks, where they've raised a lot of money and a lot of enthusiasm for Cure JM. And the Walk Strong Across America will include teams from all 50 states, and everyone will walk from their home or wherever they feel safe, their yard, their neighborhood, their local park, however it best works for your family. The walk will kick off on July 4th, and families from across the country will join a virtual celebration on Zoom on the 4th of July, and in the days following to celebrate our collective efforts and progress toward fundraising and participation goals. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Karen, and she's going to explain a little more from here.
Okay, hopefully I'm off mute now. So I'm Karen Berman. I've been working on the Chicago Walk for the past 3 years. I ran the 2019 walk and was very involved in the 2 previous ones. So my heart is definitely there in fundraising events. It's something that I really enjoy and feel so gratified by the results that we've seen for our Chicago Walk. What I want to talk to you about is how we're going to make the 2020 Walk Strong Across America a success. It's obviously a big effort to involve all 50 states. And so the National Cure JM organization will have an all hands on deck kind of an approach. It's definitely, we've got everyone mobilized. As you can look at the calendar and see, July 4th isn't very far away, so we have an awful lot to do in that time. We're currently in the process of recruiting 7 regional chairs and then a state chair, a state walk leader or chair for each of the 50 states. We'll be contacting each of those folks and providing them with information, giving them more details about their role and also what kinds of resources Cure JM will be providing to them. Claire at Cure JM has developed a terrific communications plan that we'll be using. It includes emails, social media posts, video, and lots more. So we're really excited about what she's developed. We can also use your help and your leadership in really gaining momentum for the event for Walk Strong Across America. The first thing, and most important thing that you can do is for everybody to register. And the URL for that is curejm.org/walkstrong. And when you go to that URL, you'll see first you can select the state that you'll be walking in. And then secondly, you can order t-shirts. We have a really exciting new t-shirt design for this year's walk. And if you act quickly, you can get it in on our first print run. We have free shipping this coming week. And also by getting your t-shirt early, you'll save Cure JM the money, save money on that shipping. And also you'll have more time to show off your shirt on social media and locally with your family and friends. The second thing is that we ask that you, if you're available to participate in the state and regional rally calls, that you do that. We're planning to have a couple of calls in each state before the 4th of July. They're important to align and rally our teams, and we'll be working with state leaders to set those calls up in the next couple of weeks. So those are the details of the walk, and we're really excited about it and hoping that you'll join us to make it a productive and really fun walk on the 4th of July.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Jim.
No, thanks. I was going to say, Christine, anything more from you?
No, I'm good. Thank you. Unless anybody has any questions for either one of us.
Yeah, let me make a couple of comments if I could, and then let's open it up for questions, and then a little bit later I'll talk a little bit about the status of some of our research programs. But let me say that I've spoken with, as I page through and look at all of these videos that are on my screen. I've spoken with many of you over the past week or two about this project, and with many others as well, and have to say that that I don't think I have ever come across as high a level of enthusiasm for participation and meeting high expectations as the feedback that I've received on this. So I really want to thank Christine and Karen for their extraordinary leadership as we went through the early planning of this. I really want to acknowledge the staff, Shannon, Lauren, Simonetta, and Claire, who have also been hard at work at this over the past month or so, really working through some of the details. The idea of a small organization like Cure JM being able to pull off a 50-state national event on the 4th of July involving what we hope will be, and are confident will be, the hundreds of JM families, all working to raise money to assure we can continue to fund this research is a daunting task, and I can't thank them enough. And also want to thank the board of directors, many of whom I also see on this call, and Nikki and her leadership as president for their early encouragement and willingness to move forward with the project of this size and scope. I'm really excited about this. I think it can be one of the it will be a milestone event for Cure JM, and at the risk of using an overused phrase these days about game changer, but I'll go ahead and use it because it seems quite appropriate. I think that this Walk Strong Across America has the opportunity and the potential to be a real game changer for us as we bring more and more of our families into this organization and closer to the core of our mission. So thanks to all of you who have already signed up for a regional or a state leadership role, and for those of you who we haven't yet spoken to, and if you think you're interested in taking on one of these roles, in addition to having a walk team, please call either Christine or Karen or me or Shannon or any of us, and we'd be delighted to work you in. Let me stop there and see if any of you have any questions, thoughts, comments, additions.
And I think I muted everyone when it was getting loud, so I'm gonna have to go through and unmute everyone.
I have a question. Jim?
Yeah.
It's Marge. So are the chapter presidents who are involved in the walks, are they involved? I know they're involved, but they already all know about this, that this is being done?
I'd say most of them do. I'm not sure every one of them does. I haven't kept tabs on every one of them. Certainly all of the walk chairs. All of the walk chairs are very, very much aware of this, and the New York folks are kind of tied in. So yes, we've done a lot of kind of background work in kind of bringing people up to speed, Mark.
Okay, good.
Hi, Veronica, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there are sort of goals or amounts of money that you're hoping, even with the worst, mid, and best case scenarios.
Yeah, actually, I'll let Christine and Karen take that one on because they've worked on along with Shannon on a really good budget document.
Oh, I'm happy to go ahead with that. So we're working to, previously we had goals for where there were chapter walks. Now we're extending each of those chapters will be divided into the states So each state will be represented, and we're working to divide up exactly what the budgets will be for each state based upon whether, I mean, in our case in Illinois, we've now taken out the piece that's Illinois and we're taking out the other states that were in the chapter. Our goal, approximate goal for the whole walk is around $600,000. And we're building that up, trying to gain consensus among the individual state leaders on what portion of that they feel like they can bring to the table.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts?
If you have a
Comments,
question, you can also raise your hand and I'll unmute or put it into the chat as well, and we'll make sure everyone's unmuted.
All right. Well, any additional thoughts, comments, or questions if you think of them later? Oh, you have someone has another one?
Yeah, Luke does have a question. So there's so many screens. I'm not sure if he's unmuted. Trying to find you, Luke. Oh, there you are. You're unmuted, Luke.
I didn't want to talk over anybody. Yep, all set. So basically just had a quick idea for this. So with everyone being remote and virtual with the walk, you know how you have like yard signs for political running campaigns? It'd be good to do yard signs for the walk as well, so that way the families can take pictures in front of them. And then also you can highlight all the sponsors, and you can put that virtual, you can have that walk go around the yard with a lot of different signs for the sponsors and, you know, what the Walk Strong is all about too. Just a kind of a way to engage the families and make it scalable.
Yeah, so I think that's a great
super idea.
Yeah, so in our town, we actually have a new sign company. So I already contacted them and said, hey, you guys want some free advertising? And you can put signs in my yard and all around the neighborhood and everything. So I think that's a super idea. I really like it. It's a good photo op.
Yep.
All right. Well, as you have questions, comments, or anything else, please feel free to get in touch with any one of us. We'd love the opportunity to speak with you more about it. I'm going to jump in now with a brief research update on the status of some of our projects. I had mentioned in the financial overview that we were committed to moving forward with all of our funded projects, and especially if our Walk Strong Across America program reaches the, I think, albeit ambitious goal in this environment, we will be able to do that, move forward and fund all of our existing programs. I'm quite confident in full. We've had a good year up to the point of COVID-19 hitting the organization. But no reason to believe that between now and September 30th end of our fiscal year, we can't continue that trend with a successful Walk Strong Across America. Most of the universities and research labs that we fund have been shut down as a result of COVID-19. The universities have essentially closed. Lab personnel have not been permitted to go into their labs. And as many of you know, many of our clinicians are continuing practice medicine, but are doing primarily telemedicine for telehealth, and only seeing patients when they are in the midst, for example, of a chronic flare, or have some other medical emergency or semi-emergency that requires an in-person visit. I couldn't exactly tell you the percentage of visits that are taking place via telemedicine, but it's probably in the 75 to 80% of all visits in the immediate past couple of months. And for the next couple of months, I think we can anticipate that will continue to be the case. Members of our medical advisory board tell me that they're frankly somewhat unsure what the future practice will look like at their institution. Some of this will be dependent upon what insurance companies agree or don't agree to in terms of reimbursement rates for telemedicine. Right now, reimbursement rates have traditionally been much lower for televisits than they have for personal visits, although the insurance companies have somewhat been forced to adapt to today's reality, their reimbursement policies. But where they will go in the future is also a bit of an unknown. We're looking forward to our centers reopening. We don't know exactly when that will happen, but I think as you all begin to see in the news and hear from your own providers what's happening in your community, my sense and what I hear from the medical advisory board is that we'll see, a gradual reopening of our centers and the ability to see more and more patients in person as doctors are permitted to return to their offices or traditional practice of medicine. As Nikki said, one of the things that we feel we need to focus on at CureJM is working with our medical advisory board and all of our doctors, quite frankly, to really best understand and assure that they best understand and are trained in effective practice of telemedicine. All of our institutions are really focusing on really making sure those doctors, their doctors, have those skills and develop those skills as telemedicine becomes more of a short-term reality for all of us. And then I think the additional component to all of this that we think is very important and is new to most of us, so we'll all be doing some homework and be sharing that with you, is the role of parents in telemedicine and how that changes. From what I do know about the practice of telemedicine, which I wouldn't say is a whole lot, but I've been trying to do my homework on it, is that the most effective telemedicine takes place when parents or patients can most effectively advocate for their children and understand that they need to advocate for their children, perhaps a little bit more strongly over a telemedicine visit than perhaps they may have in a longer in-person visit that happens in an office where you can have more of a personal relationship. So we'll be looking at those sort of techniques for effective telemedicine, and as we gather the best advice that we can from telemedicine experts, we'll be sharing that with all of you and essentially with the entire CureJM constituency. On the research front, I mentioned some of our labs are about to or are beginning to open up again in the summer months. Some of the institutions probably will not be open until the fall months. We don't know for institutions that don't accept students in the fall where we have research programs. We don't yet know how that will actually affect the faculty and the research that's taking place in those institutions. But I'll share with you a little bit about what we do know, and we're working with all of our institutions to acquire more information and more solid deadlines for reopening or timelines for reopening, and we'll have more of that in the coming weeks. Many of you are familiar with our program at the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences at NIH. This is essentially our drug discovery program. We're moving into the fourth year of that program. That lab was was closed in March. It is opening in the middle of this month. So I did not hear late last week if they were going to be open tomorrow or not, but that's the date they were shooting for. So we're optimistic that NIH will be back at work and continuing that drug discovery process. They have already discovered about 50 potential drugs that could have some potential efficacy in JM. In particular, a class of drugs known as JAK inhibitors or Janus kinase inhibitors, and a couple of other classes of drugs as well. So a lot of the work has at NCAT in terms of the high throughput screening for drug compounds has already been completed, and so Travis Kinder, who is the lead on that, principal investigator on that project, despite not being able to actually get in the lab, is able to continue his work on the data analysis and all of the information that he's already acquired. He has also screened a library of some 20,000 toxins that NIH has. These are environmental toxins that are potential triggers for juvenile dermatomyositis. And this is a sort of an add-on important component of his work at NIH, because if we were to be able to better identify which toxins, for example, chemicals in the water, for example, air pollution in the air, additives in food that trigger JM through this high throughput screening process, that too could be extremely valuable information to understanding how to avoid flares in the future. So in terms of that drug development program, I'm feeling very confident that really the interruption from the coronavirus and COVID-19 will be a relative blip in terms of any potential to slow us down. That is somewhat true for another major program at NIH. This is another drug trial in a drug called faricinatab that's being undertaken by Hannah Kim and Bob Colbert and in a different NIH laboratory. You all may recall that Hannah did a small clinical study, what's known as a compassionate use study, and we reported on those results recently in, I think, one of my newsletters, and also at the recent American College of Rheumatology conference. And what she found was that the use of this drug in 4 JM patients, so it was a very small trial, was very effective, and it not only presented significant physical improvement in rash, but also we saw improvement in muscle strength and lessened pain from this drug faricinatab. So what does that mean for the next step? Well, NIH is now working with us and I think in the coming months with Duke University, another one of our centers, which is about to reopen, in another trial for this particular drug that will enroll some 20 or 25 patients, which would be a significant enough number to result in the publication of a major paper that could lead to the more frequent and quote unquote approved use, if you will, not necessarily FDA approved use, but approved use by the medical community off-label for baricitinib in juvenile dermatomyositis. So we think this trial will also move forward. What we're most concerned about with this trial and several other trials that are taking place is the impact that COVID-19 might have on our ability to successfully recruit patients for these trials. The major issue around that you have with patients will be travel, because many patients need to travel to the site where the trial is taking place, and so we don't know whether patients will be willing to travel by air or if they'll even feel safe traveling by air. And then we also, don't know how parents or patients will feel about, participating in clinical trials, in hospitals where there's always some danger of public exposure, although hospitals are certainly being more careful than anybody right now. But one of the things that's kind of an irony that we're seeing as from COVID-19 is that people really are afraid to go to hospitals. Emergency room use is typically down by 50% in most hospitals now because people are choosing just not to go. So these are all kinds of unknowns that we will need to address in the coming year if we want to move forward with these clinical trials, which is very important for the development of the drug. We're going to need to come up with I think more creative ways that these trials can take place that could involve both less travel and less exposure for the adolescents, typically adolescents, that will be needed to take part in these trials. So that really covers two of our major institutes. Duke moving forward, reopening soon. GW is moving forward with their clinical trial and another drug called abatacept. They had one patient left to enroll who has been successfully enrolled. And so that's a trial where we should see published results within the next 12 months. So baricitinib, abatacept, two very promising drugs, and then some 50 other drugs where we're in very early phases that have come out from the NIH study at NCAT. I think other than that, the researchers that we're funding are all very eager to get back to their labs. Some of them, where much of the clinical work was already done, they're able to continue to work on their papers. Other labs where they are early in the process of either patient recruitment or the development of the actual physical work that needs to be done in the laboratory. If that's taking place, if that's early in the process, then those projects have essentially been paused until such a time the institute reopen and those labs reopen. I'm optimistic that the last of those will be in the fall, and hopeful that even institutions that may not be open in the fall will at least have their labs open so researchers can get back inside, be doing the work that needs to be done to move all of our work forward. Let me stop there and see if any of you have any questions.
Hey, Jim.
Michael,
Yeah, Jim, I got a question. So for the labs that are shut down for a period of time, how does that affect the funding that you've committed to them? Is that also paused until such time that they're able to get back in the lab?
That's a great question, and the answer is it varies with each institution, and some of those are still in negotiation. So, for example, one of our one of our big grant recipients is in your neighborhood at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. That's where we're doing all of the genetics and genomics work. And they too are actually hard at work on a fourth clinical trial for a JAK inhibitor that they actually own the rights to, purchased the rights to. We have fully funded that program, and they're moving forward in JM research on their own dime at this particular point, which is exactly the kind of outcome that we've always looked for in our grant making, is to leverage our dollars so institutions end up really elevating juvenile myositis to a more important position in the kinds of work that they themselves are funding. So we have a couple of institutions that are fully funded or almost fully funded, where thankfully the work is continuing to move forward. The ones that will remain sort of under discussion, so to speak, and where we may delay payments would be those institutions where we're very early in the funding process and we're not certain when they will get back. So if there's a 3-month delay, for example, in their ability to get back into the lab, then we will negotiate an equivalent 3-month delay in the payments that we make to them. All of our payments are made over a payment schedule. We don't really fund any of our recipients in a lump sum, so to speak. So with the exception of those programs that are so close to the end that have been funded or almost fully funded, we are able to control some of that outflow. Now, there's a couple of exceptions to that, and those exceptions would be for an institution, for example, where we have made a commitment to fund a staff position, and that staffer is critical to the long-term success of the institution.
If we have a long-standing commitment to fund a staff member position, so for example, someone who has runs one of our clinics, as an example, is that we're maintaining that commitment even if we're entering a time where the clinic may be closed or partially closed, or the workload might be a little bit lighter, because we recognize that an interruption in service or our failure to fund that position that could potentially result in a layoff of that individual would not be in the best long-term interests of the clinic or in the patients that are served by that clinic. So we're looking at these individually and making sure that whatever either small reductions we're making or delays in payments that we're making are not going to be create any kind of egregious problems for the institutions we're funding.
I'll just add on to that, Jim. This is Nikki. That many of the board members are also fundraisers and started off fundraising before we ever got involved in board leadership, and so we know how hard you work for those dollars, and every dollar really truly does count and helps us move our mission forward. And so as soon as this COVID crisis started impacting our research facilities and our centers of excellence, the board immediately regrouped and started reaching out to all of our researchers to find out how we could delay payments, how we could renegotiate the terms of our contracts with them. Obviously, our first priority is maintaining the standard of research and continuing the research, but we are very, very good stewards of our dollars, and because we have limited funds and we want to maximize what we get with them. So we've worked very hard to do that, and Andrew and Jim have been in touch, as have some of our board members, with our researchers and our research institutions, and we continue to revisit those numbers and those contracts in real time constantly. So I just wanted to put that out there, that I know how important it is to really keep tabs on those dollars.
This is Marge. When we applied for the money from the government, did that cover part of the salaries? Like, I know we've had 2 bills passed and money given out. Did we apply for that to pay for salaries, for example, of these positions we're just talking about?
So Marge,
Um,
go ahead, Jim.
No, go ahead, Nikki, please.
I was just going to say, so we did apply and receive the payroll protection program loan, and that is at 2.5 times. Jim, forgive me, I'm getting the numbers wrong. I believe it's 2.5 times 8 weeks salary, and so we received that money. It's about $100,000, so that will cover our salary.
Yeah.
And if we pay it, there are certain guidelines that you have to follow. It has to go towards rent, which we thankfully don't have, or salary, and then we can apply for loan forgiveness, and it becomes a grant. So it doesn't pay for our research per se. It pays for salaries, but we were very fortunate to receive those funds.
Good.
Any other questions, or Jim, anything else you wanted to mention?
No, I don't think so, Nikki. I think, but I'm happy to answer any other questions. Marge, do you have another one?
Well, I'm concerned. I didn't know anything about the July 4th virtual. I don't know if I missed it on the last meeting, or I haven't been reading my emails, but I knew nothing about it until just now. Has this been going out a long time, or is this new? Is this date new to everybody, or I'm just out of the loop?
Marge, you are in the know. This is our kickoff. So you are absolutely at the right place at the right time. This is the very first, unless you were spoken to individually to serve as a leader for a state or one of the 7 regions that Jim, Karen, and Christine mentioned earlier, you have not heard about it. And our major communications will go out June 1st. Is that still the correct drop date, Christine and Karen?
That's correct. Yep.
So you are, timing is perfect for you.
All right. Well, then I'm going to follow up with, I don't think it's enough time. There's a lot going on, especially in New York and some other states. And there's a homeschooling going on. There's teachers who are homeschooling. We'll be lucky if we get through the end of this year. There's graduations that are canceled. I don't know why you picked July 4th. I'll be honest. I think it's early to pull this together. That's, me. I always have throw in something, but I just think it's so early. This, I just see what's going on with the families that I'm connected with, and it is crazy hectic. That's all I can say in my area, in my neck of the woods here on Long Island, New York. So I don't know why you picked July 4th.
Yeah, Marge, this is Nikki. I just announcing my name because I realize you can't see me. You're on the phone. We absolutely appreciate what you're saying. And before we made the decision, the board made the decision to pick that date and to launch this Walk Strong across America. We thought 4th of July coincided with a full-blown national walk program. We did reach out and speak to many of the walk leaders across the country. We spoke to chapter presidents for feedback.
Oh,
so
good.
we did survey everyone. This was not something that the board just picked out of the sky and decided to launch. We've been working on this for, at least a month, if not longer. I feel like I've had many calls about this. So very well thought out and vetted by several people who will serve as leaders. But I'm in New York too, and I can certainly appreciate the craziness that seems to be going on around us. But we're hopeful because everyone is very excited.
You explained it that other people knew, like the people who should know, the people who run the walks and everything. That's what I was like, gee, this is awfully short notice, but okay, that helps.
If you don't mind, I wouldn't mind saying a quick thing. I'm Leah Musico, and nice to see all of you. I'm a head of an independent school, and we are also, of course, always thinking as a nonprofit about fundraising. And we ended up putting on an auction that was a live event and also an online event, and we pulled it together quickly. I just wanted to kind of give you a sense that I think that even though the days certainly feel very short in some ways, they're also quite long in others. And the fact that people are on their computers all the time and social media and active, we were able to get a lot of participation and a lot of energy in a very short amount of time. So I just feel really positive about, the significance of that date and the fact that it is soon. I think that there's something to be said about moving quickly in these days. As long as, you've got your marketing really strategy thought through, and that we're, we're hitting everybody kind of in the right way, with the right tone, but consistently up until then, I think that this could be really successful.
Thank you, Leah. That's really good to hear. And we agree. And we've spoken a lot behind the scenes on tone and not being aggressive and being very positive in nature and inclusive. And I'll also add, I work in nonprofits as well. And the American Cancer Society, the Lust Garden Foundation, NAMI, they're all moving ahead with virtual walks. And we really felt internally as a board and the some National Leadership Council members, as well as chapter presidents, that we've worked really hard over the last, 3 or 4 years. Time is kind of a blur to me, to be honest, to build this walk program. And we really didn't want to miss out on, continuing with that momentum. So that was also driving the decision to move forward. And then the only other thing I'll add is that the board is 110% behind this and so excited and incredibly appreciative of Christine and Karen stepping up and co-chairing this huge walk. We've never done something like this on this scale before, and we're really excited and confident that it's going to exceed our expectations. And to all of you on the phone and in Zoom rooms with us who are volunteering to host teams and reach out to your friends and family, thank you for all you do for our families. As a mom, I'm so appreciative. Jim, Shannon,
Great.
anything else?
I don't see anything on chat or text, no.
And let me just say, for all of you who are toiling in the trenches of homeschooling, bless you and hang in there.
Thanks, we need it. It is hard work.
It is. It's very hard work. All right, well, we will be in touch with, again, with those of you who have already signed up for a leadership role in this. Once again, thank you for really helping drive us to higher levels of success than that I'm quite confident that we're going to see. And for those of you who are thinking about it or want to step into a role, as I mentioned earlier, please get in touch with any of us. We're eager to put the finishing touches on the leadership group for this and to move on to new heights.